We actually met on a website about 15 years ago.
I knew that I didn't have time for anybody while I was in school. So from '03 to '07, I was very busy. And then my band took off for a year and we were doing touring and stuff. So I answered this ad thinking, all right, well, now that I've got some time, I better meet some people that are more than just tricks. I was also kind of aware of age differences. Like, okay, I've been tricking with people who are older than me. Maybe I should look for somebody more age appropriate to date.
Well, you picked the wrong time,
Yeah.
didn't you?
So I met Buck, and then
I sort of planned it that I walked to the restaurant so that I would have to ask for a ride home. And that worked because he came back to my house. So it was nice. But we were both, as he said, we were both aware of the age difference. And, he's a rocker. And I'm more like Sinatra era. So yeah, a year went by before we met again.
I had this friend whose husband was a diver. And he was in this dive group, scuba dive group. He said, they're having some meeting that he's going to. So why don't you come with me and then you and I can sort of sit on the side and catch up. So I was driving to this location and we're like, I've been in this neighborhood before. I bet you, is that the house we're going to? I know I've been in that house. And then he came to the door and I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it.
Yeah, so we kind of connected that day, and the rest is history. It's been 15 years we've been together.
And I still was aware of it being an age difference, but I felt that the time we were spending together was way better than anybody else that I'd been with. And we had a lot more in common than the surface would show.
What? We're very different.
Well, yeah, but we're complementary. We see things the same.
That's true.
We appreciate things similarly.
That's true. We do. Yeah.
Yes.
Chris was ready for a committed relationship, and I had been single for so many years, it just wasn't really on my radar. And so it was hard for me to give up that life and commit to one person.
I was more ready to cut off all the people that I was tricking with. They didn't matter to me. There was the discussion of, well, are we going to take off the condoms now? Are we going to be intimate to the point where, nobody else can kind of get in here? But there was somebody else on his side, and I didn't know about it until some mutual friends conversing because he had the same name. So like, oh, you're not that Chris. And I'm like, what other Chris could there be? That was sort of like, well, now I have to start over with trust because there was this whole deception going on. There was a whole level of interference and what are we going to do about this other person? And I said, well, look, if you want to have an open relationship, we can have an open relationship. I've done that. It's not really what I want, but I can do it. And he was like, no.
It just took some counseling for me to overcome all those years of habits. But it really did the job. I looked at things differently and I realized that this is the man I wanted to spend the rest of my life with.
And then around 2010, we took that cruise.
We figured this would be a good test case to see, how the relationship would go being together 24/7.
Yeah.
And we had a great time. We went and did a lot of kayaking and went on the float planes and everything. And we just had a great time. And so that kind of cemented it, huh?
Yeah.
So I had a house in Silver Lake, which is in the LA area. And Chris had a condo in the valley. He moved into my house and started renting out the condo.
When I grew up, my parents divorced when I was young. And then my dad had to get remarried. We initially moved back into our house and they were like, no, we need to get something that's the two of, my mother or my stepmother and my dad's place. So I was well aware of that from an early age that, oh, that's a thing. So we got married in your house. We'd also bought an RV together. That was our first piece of mutual debt. We did that probably in the first year. We're married now. Our finances, we have to figure out how we're gonna make this work, because I have a date when I'm gonna retire. How much money am I gonna be able to put towards retirement versus what we have. So we sold both of our places first, so we knew how much money we had to work with. So we lived in the RV for about 6 months. We were moving around town in the RV.
So it's not like we were street people. We always had a
Right.
place to call home.
All of our stuff was in 4 pods, a 3-bedroom house and a 3-bedroom condo. It was a lot of stuff. So we made a list of the things we wanted. And one of the things kept coming up was location. Well, yeah, location. But I was like, we're going to have to move out to the valley to get the.
So I'm an LA kid. I was brought up in LA on the west side. I was actually brought up in West Hollywood. And as I was growing up, the valley was like a whole different country. So when we started looking in the valley, it was totally alien to me. And I admit I was resistant.
And then we found this place. It met all of our needs, meaning that it provided a place for us to park our RV. There's a pool and a separate building that he uses for a dive locker. So he can teach scuba right here in the pool. There's a repurposed garage, and it's soundproofed, so I can actually use it for a recording studio, rehearsal, and we've got a green screen in there, so even videos we've done here. And it's all on one level as well. So no more stairs, because you can see the scars here in the knees.
Well, I don't think we're showing the knees. I have had both my knees replaced.
Yeah, so we wanted to make sure no more stairs, because the other house, a lot of stairs.
Yeah.
I mean, once COVID hit, we were set. Since COVID, we've been together nearly 24/7, because I'm now remote full time.
Well, I'm retired, except I still teach scuba in the pool. My most recent career before that was as an actor, and I was very fortunate. I booked a lot of work, so I was able to retire from that. I just got tired of all the auditioning process.
I've been in financial aid for nearly 25 years, so since 2000. So being a musician, one of the income streams we had for my band, where I was making a living from at the time, was selling CDs. Well, in 2000, that market sort of dropped. I couldn't make a go of it any longer as a musician. I moved to LA in March of 2001 and went to work for a film school, which I later ended up graduating from and going to attending. Now I've been working for an animation school for almost 10 years. I'm in my 10th year. So our t-shirts, this is the Dive Club, Barnacle Busters right there.
When this logo was designed, the wisdom of the day was that 1 out of every 10 people was gay. So that's why we have 1 pink tank out of the 10. I started teaching scuba in 1984, and in 1989 we formed the Barnacle Busters. At that time it was a gay and lesbian scuba club. Now it's an LGBTQ plus scuba club.
But once we start dating, I'm like, yeah, this is going to have to be a reality. I'm going to have to learn to be a diver. And I've been diving now since 2010.
How many dives?
Almost 500 now, yeah. It's a lot. And this shirt here, Gay CDC, it's an all-gay tribute to AC/DC. That band is now 10 years old also, and we've been playing places all over the country. That's been really fun.
We have an RV, which you saw out front, so that's the tour bus for the band. So when they go on tour, the band usually drives with us in the RV, and I'm the driver and kind of the crew. I help load and unload and all that kind of stuff. So we've really become part of each other's lives and each other's history.
Yeah, I'm secretary of the board supporting you, and yeah, vice versa. And honestly, I have no groupies.
Maybe you do and you just don't know about them.
Well,
The band has groupies, maybe not you personally.
They don't come up and shove themselves in my face,
No,
you know.
that's true.
So there's not really any of that sort of
That's true, yeah.
jealousy.
Yeah. And we're always together, so there's no time to cheat anyway.
Well, there's that. That's true. We can't.
We have the best life, honestly.
Aside from the early thing that we already talked about.
Right.
I don't think I have ever experienced any jealousy with regards to Buck. I only feel extreme pride.
I feel pride in Chris's accomplishment, his music videos and his performances. I think it comes down to trust.
And at this point in my life, I mean, my relationship with you has risen to the top of everything. There's no room for jealousy just because we already know we're number one for each other. So whether I go do a tour, you're coming with me, or you go do a dive trip, I'm coming with you.
Right.
And so we've never really had any reason to be jealous of anything.
Right.
I may have more fame in a certain way, but not really. And I think you have more fame than you think you do.
We are dramatically opposite in most ways. He's kind of type A, so he likes everything in order and everything perfect. And I'm kind of a type X. So I'm kind of messy, and for me, you hadn't noticed, right? Now I've totally lost my train of thought. What were we talking about?
Challenges.
It's like two cats, they're looking at each other one time and then the other one's going, "Arr!" and then they're back to looking at each other, so that's kind of.
Not very often, no.
No, I'm just saying that it flares up, but then, people being 24/7 together like we are, it's hard not to.
And two, I pick my battles. If something annoys me, but it's not a big deal, I'll just, let it go. And I think you probably do the same.
Exactly the same. I'm reaching that age where I don't have FOMO anymore. I used to feel like I've got to be part of the scene. I got to be out there doing stuff. And now I'm like, I'd rather be right here. So happiness for us is making sure the other one feels noticed and paid attention to.
Okay, here's an example. Whoever gets in bed first warms up the other side of the bed. We have a very strong heart connection, and it works for us in spite of our differences.
So finances, I think that's pretty much the place that I took control, if you would. Like, he's celiac, so he took control of the kitchen. If I'm cooking something and I forget that, I put a piece of bread here,
So it has to be gluten-free.
It has to be gluten-free, and the only way to make sure that's going to happen is that if he's in control, and I clean up. But finances was something that I seem to be better at. I mean, I'm in financial aid. That's kind of my job.
As far as buying the house goes, I was able to put down a sizable deposit because of the equity in the house that I sold. And Chris takes over the payments, the mortgage payments. So it's, like water finds its own level. It just has evened out.
And I think that's where, when we got married, we were like, okay, let's look at the money and figure out how are we going to keep making this work? And that's when my condo didn't make any sense any longer. And your house didn't really make any sense any longer for our future. And that's when we decided, all right, we need to combine and really look at our finances and make it work. But you got to be honest about that stuff. And luckily we found ourselves being honest about it.
Yep.
But I came from nothing. My parents both ended up completely penniless. So I'm like, okay, I can't let that happen. So it's really top of mind for me.
The water and power has become very expensive. And so I used to want to turn the heat up, but it costs a lot of money. So Chris put us on an eco mode or something. And I just learned to wear sweats when I'm in the house.
Layer, honey.
Layer.
It's a new concept to an LA native.
I've learned to layer.
Like I say, I think I'm more the panicker when it comes to this. I mean, we're carrying debt for the first time in my life ever. And I think,
and in my life.
Yeah. And well. I think, at some point we just have to relax about the money. As long as we're being honest with each other about money, then we can relax and it's going to get taken care of. Don't weaponize money.
Right.
We
do have an emergency fund, which we can dip into if an emergency arises, if we really need money. But we try not to do that because, well, it's an emergency fund.
Right.
So So we try not to touch that, but we have it there as a backup.
Right. I think as long as couples are honest with each other, they can kind of work through whatever it is. At least you don't have like a gambling habit or something.
I do occasionally buy a lottery ticket.
Oh, God.
which he objects to. But I only buy them like maybe twice or three times a year.
I'll find them crinkled up under the driver's seat of the car. Guess you didn't win that one. That'll teach you for wasting $3.
Did I forget to throw that out?
For people who are wanting to be in long-term relationships, you have to learn to laugh at yourself.
It's funny he should say that because that's my philosophy of life.
Because if you take it too seriously, then you're gonna take your own side. And in a relationship that's the long run, it's yours. It's the relationship. We want to be together. That's the priority. And if you prioritize anything else, then you shouldn't do it. Then you don't really want to be with somebody else. I mean, my primary goal is to be with him until he passes away. And I'll do whatever it takes to stay there.
There's no guarantee that I'm going first. Did you hear that?
I did hear that. Shocked.
I mean, the assumption is, but
yeah,
there's no guarantees.
And the other thing is, be honest with yourself. If you're trying to keep a life on the side, why? If you're trying to, keep some secret, or why? What's your point? If you want to be with somebody, do it full. There's no reason to do anything half-assed. It's a big mountain climbing, being with somebody else. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to deal with. And if you're not prepared, don't do it. It just probably isn't for you. We've discovered the rewards are far more. I can't imagine a life without you at this point.
Ditto. And I know people say that, but it's really true. I wake up in the morning and I think, look, I have a great place to live. I have a beautiful husband. We have a great relationship. We have friends and family who love us and who we love. We have a great life.
Gratitude.
I'm grateful, and I do realize that every morning, and sometimes during the day, I'll just look around and think, how lucky am I?
As long as we keep saying, I only want to be right here, and everything else works out.
We're the lucky ones, aren't we?
Yes.
Oh, you can.
I gotta.
Up here. Try it again. That's better.
That was actually perfect.